Part 63. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 622. My hometown is in a small place called Lehman Town in the Carolingian Kingdom. The town is gone, destroyed by the wolf tide, and has been rebuilt several times, but it is only better than a ruin. Lehman is a beautiful town, the people there are nice and the streets are clean. When I hear the word wolf tide again, even if you don't invite me, if I am in a good mood or in a bad mood, I will go to your border. You have only heard about the horror of wolf tide, but I have really experienced it. So I really hate wolf tide. By the way, General Raymondy, won't the Carolingian Alchemy Council have any objections to your cooperation with me? Admiral Raymondy shook his head. The arrest of Carloman 16 for you was very sudden, and we did not have time to communicate with the Carolingian Alchemy Council. However, I think the House of Lords will emphasize your importance and put aside the previous controversy. This is also one of my worries. Not to mention the Carolingian Alchemy Council, we have had many conflicts in the past. Mr. Furness, please rest assured that no one will mention the misunderstandings you had with us before. We will also try our best to persuade the Carolingian Council not to pursue those responsibilities. In fact, the Carolingian Alchemy Council has never you were wanted as flagrantly as Carloman 16, and as far as I know you finally came to some kind of compromise with the Carolingian city of Fabreau, which was approved by their council. That's good. I don't want to affect the relationship between you and your allies. With the help of the Elba Alchemy Council, Rudolf has temporarily suppressed a hidden worry. The alchemist is serious and meticulous in his work. Rudolf saw General Raymondy take out multiple copies of the document and hand it to Rudolf. Rudolf briefly glanced at the document. It was a cooperation agreement between the Constitutional Army and Volcano Shipping Trading Co., Ltd. What I am most concerned about is, if we cooperate, what level of alchemy bullets can you provide me and how many alchemy bullets can you provide me? This agreement does not make it clear. It only says a certain number. This a number is too vague. Mr. Furness, we will apply for the alchemical bullet for you as soon as possible. Please wait patiently. Your Southern Cross wizard ability is what we urgently need, and we will not waste your ability. After signing several documents, the cooperation agreement came into effect. Mr. Furness, with this agreement, it will be easy for Parliament to pass secret bills about you. I understand that Parliament is often at loggerheads and this agreement can help you, the Constitutional Army, to convince those MPs. The formation of the Constitutional Army Navy was so large that the news could not be concealed. In other words, the Constitutional Army wanted other forces to know that the melting pot had become their ally. I wonder how Carloman 16 will view this news when it reaches the Holy Grail city, the capital of King Elba. Rudolf is a wanderer on the sea. The Carolingian kingdom is not his hometown. He has no real allies. The Alchemy Council of Elba only regards him as a capable supplement under the pressure of the werewolves. There had been some quarrels with the Elba Navy in the past. When Rudolf first arrived at the port of Cordour, he had a fight with the Elba Navy. Now, he has become a guest of Elba's Alchemy Council. The fate of people is really wonderful. After Rudolf thought for a while, he said to General Raymondy, among the common enemies between you and me, I am most interested in the werewolves, the cult of the evil god, and the ancient sea wizards. If possible, I am prepared to stay in Eagle Mouth for a long time. Peninsula. To the southwest of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula is the Martini Islands of the Wizarding Society. The evil god cult is using the Martini Islands as a transit point to continuously send believers into your city. The northwest of the Eagle's Mouth Peninsula is the wilderness. The werewolves launched a wolf wave and invaded the first province before heading south, which is the Eagle's Mouth province. I also have some acquaintances in the Eagle's Mouth Peninsula, so let me go to the Eagle's Mouth Peninsula. Of course, Mr. Furness, this is your freedom. You can rest in any of our cities, and then freely attack any of the forces you just mentioned. If you have any needs, we will do our best to help you. Of course Raymondi knew that the Forge would not take the initiative to fight against the port of Cotter controlled by the Golden Anchor family. It would be the best outcome for him to stay in the west and create chaos for the enemies in the west of the parliament. Rudolph being wanted is equivalent to being kicked out of the aristocratic sea, and because Ivan has a feud with the werewolf, he has been feeling a stagnation in his heart recently, and it will be particularly uncomfortable if it is not released. He said. The ancient sea wizards on the Martini Islands provided ships for the werewolves and also informed the werewolf messenger Dolph. If there were no wizards who would be so troublesome, the werewolf Dolph might not know that Ivan is following me. The Wizarding Society also transported believers for the evil god cult, which caused considerable chaos in the Eagle Beak Peninsula. New and old grudges. Let's start with the Martini Islands. It was because I was too gentle to them that I actually made them think that they could use some dirty means to deal with me. Admiral Raymondi, how much strength can you use? I am going to plan an attack on the Martini Islands. Raymondi could not hide his joy. He quickly said happily, at least 10 ships. I can even out 10 80 gunships to attack the Martini Islands. How could Raymondi be unhappy? The melting pot took the initiative to deal with the Martini Islands, which proved that their choice of the Constitutional Army was correct. 10 ships. Rudolph felt that this force was already good. He said, Admiral Raymondi, I think we are in the same boat. I don't know who you Elba alchemists have provoked. Your enemies are all around, better than me, but limited. Haha. Raymondi smiled bitterly and said, who knows who we have provoked. Facing the provocation of the nobles, we endured again and again, but the nobles still started a civil war. Now it is the power of destruction, and we have no interest in that power. As the Constitutional Army, we can only do our best to protect our hometown. Hearing that the alchemists were not interested in the power of destruction, Rudolph did not believe it, but the Constitutional Army's determination to protect the Elba Alchemy Council was real, and this could be trusted. After the negotiation with the Constitutional Army Navy ended, after 3 days of rest, the Volcano, the Giant, and 10 ships left Oyster Bay Port and headed for the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. Watching the fleet leave, Admiral Raymondi smiled from ear to ear on the dock. Admiral, is it necessary to cooperate deeply with a wizard? Other wizards only need to make magic tools for us to enhance our combat effectiveness, but the Crucible is different. The Crucible will give any force a headache if it becomes the enemy. If you analyze the intelligence carefully, you will find that the Crucible has never been serious before. Whether it is fighting against the evil god cult or the ancient Sea Wizard Association, the Crucible will withdraw first after fighting to a certain extent. It's different now. They actually set their sights on the wolf girl of the Crucible. The Wizard Association is going to be in big trouble. We just need to wait for good news. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 623. In Belfort Port, Rudolph said to Minister Duke behind him, have I made my arrangements clear? You have made it clear that the fleet will set sail in 3 days, so that the fleet will arrive a week after you arrive at the Martini Islands, leaving you with enough time to act. Okay, then I'll leave first. Mr. Furness, Duke, the director of the trial hall, quickly added. We are applying for level 8 alchemy bullets. In the Alchemy Council, only Mr. House, Speaker of the House of Lords, is a level 8 alchemist. Therefore, this matter needs to be submitted directly to Speaker House. Only with his consent can we apply for level 8 alchemy bullets. I understand that anything difficult can be delayed by going through the process. I understand this. Mr. Furness, please don't misunderstand us. Our current cooperation is very sincere and we will not compromise at all. We are absolutely serious about the level 8 alchemy bullet. After hearing that the Forge and the Constitutional Army had signed a cooperation agreement, The top witch hunters in the Capital Judgment Department were so anxious that they almost went to the Constitutional Army headquarters to ask for help. The Forge is a wizard. Even if it cooperates with the Alchemy Council, it should be led by the witch hunters. How can it be led by the Constitutional Army? Of course, the Constitutional Army will not release him. The cooperation agreement was signed by the Navy commander. How could the Constitutional Army give in front of the Judicial Department? Now that the deal is done, most of the credit for all the results after the smelting furnace will go to the Constitutional Army. For example, in this attack on the Martini Islands, their witch hunters can only eat some leftovers. Competition among various departments within the Parliament was fierce, and the Judiciary Department did not want to fall behind. They actually submitted an application to the Speaker to apply for level 8 alchemy bullets for the furnace. When they learned that the werewolves and the Mogwen Empire were going to join the war, the Judgment Department had used any means to increase their strength, even if it was to give the furnace dangerous level 8 alchemy bullets. As long as the furnace hits the enemy's upper echelons, the risk is worth it and the plan is feasible. A Starlight South ship appeared next to the furnace, and the Starlight South ship took the furnace into the sea water. Director Duke looked at the sea and sighed, leaving the coast. The situation is getting worse and worse. In the past, it would have been impossible for the Parliament to cooperate with wizards like the Forge. Now with the prophecy of destruction and the pressure of the werewolves, the Parliament had to compromise. I hope that the melting pot can fulfill the expectations of the Parliament and that the compromises of the Parliament will not be ineffective. The Starlight Southern ship traveled quickly through the seabed. Rudolph silently recalled the information provided by the trial hall in the Southern ship, thinking about the countermeasures after entering the Martini Islands. The Martini Islands are composed of more than a dozen islands. Each island has been transformed by the Wizards Association into a lake in the center of the island. In the center lake is where several high-level Pisces wizards live. Now the port of the Martini Islands has become a transit point for the evil cult. The believers get on small boats and sneak ashore in remote locations on the Eagle Beak Peninsula. The coastline of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula is too long to be completely defended. With a distance of 50 nautical miles, believers can just row to the shore in one night and then sneak ashore. The Parliament set up a patrol militia specifically to deal with believers who smuggled across the country. This night, a small boat carrying believers was expelled by the patrol militia, and then had to return to look for opportunities later. What they didn't know was that there was a man attached to the bottom of their boat, and this man followed the boat toward the Martini Islands. After the boat docked, Rudolph blended in with the crowd. Wearing a hood, he was assumed to be a believer in pain after self-mutilation, and his face could not be shown to others. Looking at the port in the hood, Rudolph found that the port was divided into two areas, half used to dock large ships from the southern continent, and the other half used to dock small boats smuggling to the northern continent. The entire port is in order, and there are priests on the shore who manage everything. This is an excellent opportunity to spread faith for the evil god. All believers may awaken as servants of God after smuggling away and receive the favor of the evil god. With the help of dangerous intuition, Rudolph escaped the sight of all the priests and entered the temporary residence of believers behind the port. The believers didn't feel miserable and lived haphazardly in the tents and wooden houses. Anyway, they would be able to leave for the northern continent in a few days. The path left by the tents and wooden sheds was very small. Rudolph slowly squeezed forward in the crowded crowd. He didn't know where these believers were going, so he just moved with the flow of people. He glanced at the center of the island. According to the information given by the trial hall, Bharat, the dolphin wizard of the North Sky, lived under the lake all year round. That lake was Bharat's home field. If Rudolph entered rashly, he would definitely be discovered. However, he is not in a hurry to deal with Bharat now. After hearing the term security warfare several times, Rudolph feels that this is also a good way to attack the enemy. It is time for the wizards to have a taste of security warfare. Whatever the enemy fears death, prepare for the enemy. What made him feel relieved was that the cooperation between the ancient Sea Wizards Association and the evil god cult had a bottom line. He did not see the temple here, which minimized Rudolph's danger. After squeezing for about half an hour, Rudolph saw what the believers were going to do. It turned out that there was a tent for distributing late-night snacks. The logistics of this evil cult were surprisingly good. It is difficult to pretend to be a priest, but it is easier to pretend to be a believer, because the followers of the evil god are ordinary people, and the servants of the gods, like the wizard apprentices, are in the preparatory stage to officially become an apostle. As long as Rudolph doesn't use the power of the apostle, he is no different from ordinary people. Rudolph lined up like the other believers and then observed the situation around him. The midnight snack here is some simple seafood soup. What Rudolph wants to find is fresh water for these midnight snacks. Soon, Rudolph found the water truck that transported fresh water. As long as he followed the water truck, he could find the fresh water source on the island. After taking the seafood soup in the shell, Rudolph carefully carried the shell to a place with few people. He squatted in the corner, drinking the pitiful soup while staring at the water truck until the water truck left here to replenish fresh water. The fresh water on the island comes from an underground fountain, and the water here is drinkable fresh water. A real live snake emerged from Rudolph's sleeve. This snake was prepared by Rudolph early and brought with him. After landing, it crawled towards the heavily guarded water source. No one noticed that a small snake was crawling towards the water source. The snake was so small that after reaching the water source, it suddenly opened its mouth, and a smaller starlight water snake emerged from its mouth. The starlight water snake slowly crawled out and then gently entered the spring water. At the bottom of the island's heart lake, the 7th level North Sky Wizard Belat suddenly opened his eyes. Star power. He sensed the star power. Take a day off tomorrow. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 624. Bharat was very alert. After he sensed the star power, he immediately left the island's center lake. Seeing the 7th level wizard Bharat leave the lake bottom at night, several wizards followed. Teacher, do you have any arrangements? Bharat ordered, increase the security and investigate what suspicious things happened tonight. Okay, teacher. The priests also noticed Bharat's departure. The 7th level annihilation priest Canute left his residence and walked towards Bharat. He asked, respected Bharat wizard, what happened? I sensed the star power. A wizard sneaked into the Martini Islands. His movements were very small, and the star power changed in a flash. His star power quickly disappeared. Canute asked, is it possible that the wizards of the Wizard Association are using the star power? It is normal for someone on the island of the Wizard Association to use the star power. This island is full of wizards. Low-level priests are terrified, for fear that some wizard will set their eyes on their relics. I have a rule that wizards must go to a designated location on the seaside to practice witchcraft or make witchcraft tools. The living area and work area of the Wizard Association are separated to avoid unexpected events. The place where the star power I just sensed appeared was not in the work area on the seaside, but in your believers. Someone mixed in with the believers and used the star power among the believers. Canute realized one thing, the Wizard Association has been monitoring the priests and believers, otherwise Belat would not be able to easily find out that the believers had mixed in with the wizards. He frowned, there are many believers, can you sense who specifically used the star power? No, it's impossible to be so precise. Mr. Belat, I also want to mention the temple. If a temple is built in the Martini Islands, then we can easily control the believers, and then no one will hide among the believers. If someone sneaks into the Martini Islands, the temple will easily find him. Belat shook his head. Building a temple is very simple, but it will be difficult to demolish the temple in the future. Once the temple is built, the evil god's control over this place will become extremely strong. Canute promised that they would demolish the temple when they sent enough believers to the North Continent. Belath did not agree with this. He did not believe that the evil god would demolish a temple just because of a few explanations from the priests. The temple was the core interest of the evil god, and the evil god would not give in easily. At that time, which evil god felt that there was no need to compromise with the wizards, the evil god watched him through the temple, and Belath could not run away. Please be vigilant, priests, and don't let the enemy take advantage of the loopholes. I will also let the wizards of the Wizards Association increase their defenses and be careful of the actions of enemy wizards. After searching for nothing, Belath had to return. Apostles do not use the power of apostles, and there is no difference between them and ordinary people. This feature makes it very easy for apostles to hide among ordinary people. The level of the word spirits on the island is very low, not enough to get the enemy's situation through divination. The chaotic second half of the night did not affect Rudolph. The next morning, he waited for the believers to have breakfast. What made Rudolph unhappy was that why so many people didn't like to eat breakfast. If you don't take care of your body like this, you will get kidney stones. Look at those who have eaten breakfast, they are different, they will be poisoned. After the last group of people had breakfast, Rudolph slowly closed his eyes and mobilized the star power in his body. He would not poison these believers to death, but he could cause chaos in the Martini Islands. In the crowded tents and wooden sheds, the believers suddenly fell down holding their stomachs, and groans came from the tents. Those believers who were wandering outside to kill time, and those believers who were praying under the guidance of the priests, also showed very obvious signs of poisoning, with purple on their necks, and fell down in pain. Some painful believers actually felt that the toxin made them excited, and they rolled on the ground one by one, while thanking the Lord of Redemption. I didn't expect that the prayer this morning was so effective. The Lord of Redemption directly gave them pain, allowing them to feel redemption in pain. The painful priests were not as naive as the believers. They immediately realized the problem. This had nothing to do with the gift of the Lord of Redemption. This was really poisoning. For a time, priests throughout the Martini Islands rushed to tell each other, hoping that the high-level priests would come up with a solution as soon as possible. The high-level priests were not in a hurry, because this was the Martini Islands, and there was a North Sky dolphin wizard. In mythology, dolphins are the spirits that represent salvation in the Sarago Sea, and have powerful healing abilities. As long as the North Sky Dolphin Wizard takes action, these toxins are nothing. The situation here was quickly sent to the island's center lake, and Belat walked out of the underwater glass passage and walked towards the water source. Such a large-scale poisoning, or after breakfast, could only be that the water source was poisoned. Rudolph, wearing a hood, came to the other end of the big island in the opposite direction of the water source. The believers lay on the ground, and the two priests looked at the believers and discussed. Who do you think is the one who poisoned me? I know who you want to talk about. Who? The Scorpio wizard, the furnace, the Scorpio wizard that neither the high priest Canute nor the high priest Jacob can deal with. It's not that they can't deal with him, it's that they can't kill him. Rudolph suddenly appeared behind the two of them. You two, you guessed it right. The two priests turned around and saw a man in a cloak. Before they could speak, two starlight water snakes emerged from the man's sleeves and bit the throats of the two priests fiercely. The violent toxin, far more toxic than the poison the believers were exposed to, instantly took away the lives of the two priests. Two level 3 priests. The other priests wanted to warn them, but it was too late. At some point, starlight water snakes were everywhere here. The starlight water snake specifically targets priests and delivers poison from their ankles into their bodies. At this time, the highest level priest on the island was the level 7 Annihilation High Priest Canute. His reaction was not unpleasant. He had already reacted when the priest began to die quickly. Duke of the Trial Hall told Rudolph that based on the proportion and number of smuggled believers, the Trial Hall judged that the evil god most interested in the power of destruction is annihilation, so the great priest of annihilation, Canute, is stationed in the Martini Islands. Canute had already flown to the scene of the incident. When he heard the word poisoned, he already had a bad premonition. It was most likely a furnace, and the furnace was coming. Canute was an old acquaintance. Seeing Canute flying over, Rudolph knew that he had to speed up his progress. The purple giant beast, the starlight water snake Hydra, suddenly appeared, and its huge body hit the ground. There is a distinction between superiority and inferiority. Priests and believers live separately. Hydra's 9 snake heads went straight to the residences of the priests and smashed them wildly. For a moment, it was like an earthquake. There was poisonous smoke hanging from the corners of the giant snake's mouth. The poisonous smoke spread on the ground. The priests who touched the poisonous smoke were poisoned to death one by one. Canute immediately used magic, and a black vortex appeared on the starlight snake Sudra. The snake's body twisted and was instantly swallowed by the black hole vortex. Before being swallowed by the huge black hole, Rudolph raised his finger to Canute. Canute was startled, and a whirlpool suddenly appeared between his eyebrows. However, Canute did not wait for the attack, but found that the level 6 priest next to him was shot through the eyebrow. The furnace died, without any resistance. He was swallowed by the black hole vortex. However, a handful of golden phoenix fire appeared, and Forge used his signature ability to escape through death. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 625. Newt's face was ashen as he waited for his priests to count the losses. The losses were huge, very huge. Half an hour later, the priest came out with the report. Great priest, in this furnace attack, 1 level 6 priest, 2 level 5 priests, 32 level 4 priests, 56 level 3 priests, 189 level 2 and 1 priests died in the poisonous mist. This number made Canute frightened. He didn't know what stimulated the furnace. The furnace no longer dealt with high-level priests. The only time it took full action was to kill a level 6 priest. Most of the furnace's attacks were aimed at low-level priests. Of a rank priest. The huge purple beast and the rich purple poisonous mist are an excellent means of killing low-level priests. He asked his men with an ugly face, "Can't you find the furnace?" "Great priest," the wizard said, "that the furnace has not been resurrected in the Martini Islands. There have been star power fluctuations on the seabed in the distance, and the furnace has escaped from the seabed. Aren't the Pisces wizards the main ones in the Ancient Sea Wizards Association? Why don't they pursue them from the bottom of the sea?" The people from the Wizarding Association explained that although Furnace has the title of a fire wizard, that is his disguise. Furnace is actually a water wizard. His Starlight South ship is highly recognizable. They have no confidence in catching Starlight South on the bottom of the sea. Boat. Canute didn't believe what the wizards said. Bellet was a level 7 water wizard and couldn't catch up with a level 6 water wizard in the water. This excuse was somewhat perfunctory. It was just that Bellat was unwilling to take risks because of the furnace. It's possible to kill Barat. Canute closed his eyes in pain. The furnace was fighting a security war. It was killing low-level priests, thereby destroying the organization of the church and completely paralyzing the church on the Martini Islands. The number of low-level priests has dropped sharply, and the plan to transport believers to the northern continent has to be slowed down. It is impossible for Bellet to arrange these things by himself. In the end, he will have to wait for more priests to be sent from the southern continent to let the low-level priests maintain the believers. Order. It would be great if there were temples. The southern continent is not afraid of high-level apostles fighting security wars. Because of the existence of temples, other apostles do not dare to go too far. The denser the temples are, the more honest the other apostles will be. But in the Martini Islands, the ancient sea wizards have always refused to build a temple, which makes them seem to be in shackles. They obviously have powerful power but cannot use it. Canute asked again, is the Wizarding Society's loss big? No loss. No loss. Yes, High Priest, the Wizarding Council has no losses, the furnace has not touched the Wizarding Council, and not a single wizard from the Wizarding Council has died. The muscles on Newt's face twitched and his face looked ugly. However, the next news made Canute feel even worse. High Priest, we have collected some new information about the Forge. The Forge is wanted by the Elba royal family. He has become the most wanted criminal among the Elba nobles because the Forge killed the envoy sent by the werewolf Xuanhuan to the Elba royal family. A level 7 werewolf. The reason why the furnace killed the werewolf messenger was that the people of the ancient sea wizards told the werewolf messenger about a stray werewolf next to the furnace. A conflict broke out between the two sides. In the end, the furnace directly killed the werewolf messenger, causing the Elba royal family to something went wrong in the cooperation with the werewolf Xuanhuan. We suspected that the Forge was here to take revenge on the ancient sea wizards, but we happened to be on the archipelago and were implicated. But when he took revenge on the Guhe Wizards Association, why did he only attack our low-level priests and not the Wizards Association? Faced with the High Priest's question, the reporting priest didn't know how to answer. He only thought that the furnace was a lunatic. It was true that there was a conflict between the religion of the gods and the furnace, but shouldn't the main enemy of the furnace now be the Guhe Wizards Association? Even if he went, you can also understand the attack on the werewolf ancestral mountain or the Elba nobles. What does it mean to stare at the low-level priests of the gods' religion and kill them? Canute got up and was about to go to the northern heaven wizard Bharat, hoping that Bharat would allow them to build a temple here. However, he returned without success again, and Bharat refused Canute's request without hesitation. The whole day was spent in this kind of fear, until at night, 2 ships transporting believers appeared on the sea. The 2 ships were supposed to arrive in the afternoon, but they arrived only in the evening. The church priests, who were already frightened, were worried that the furnace was causing trouble. Their fears became reality as they spotted weeping believers at the side rail. When Canute himself came to the port in person, he had a premonition that something was going to happen at night. After seeing it with his own eyes, it made him miserable. After setting up the gangway, the believers eagerly squeezed down from the gangway, desperately trying to leave the ship. The priests were unable to maintain order. Some priests asked several believers to recount what happened on the ship. The believers just shouted repeatedly, "The priests are all dead. They are all dead." After the believers got off the boat, Canute took people on board. Just as the believers described, the cabin was full of dead priests. The priest who escorted the ship was only a level 5 priest and was no match for the furnace. Letting the furnace board the ship was a one-sided bloodbath. The faces of these priests were like violets, they were deeply poisoned, and their bodies were covered in 2 groups of bloody holes left by snake teeth. Canute could guess how these priests died. After boarding the ship, the furnace released a large number of starlight water snakes on the ship. Starlight water snakes were all over the deck, all over the cabin, all over the walls, and even poisonous snakes hung upside down on the ceiling. The believers knew that if they were bitten by a poisonous snake, they would be poisoned to death, but there was no place to step on the ground, and every step would step on at least 5 poisonous snakes. The slippery, elastic, and cold starlight water snakes were the nightmare of the priests. The living conditions in the southern continent were not good, and at least half of the believers had no shoes to wear. This feast of poisonous snakes instantly broke the psychological defenses of the believers, which was why many believers were scared and screamed until they reached the shore. The believers were lucky that there were no large-scale deaths, but the priests were miserable. The furnace began to fight a security war. What he wanted was to destroy the organization of the evil god cult and to kill low-level priests on a large scale. The priests were bitten to death one after another, and the level 5 priest who was escorting the ship was the last to die. By the time the furnace had dealt with the low-level priests, the level 5 priests had already lost their will to resist. In front of all the believers, the level 5 priests were strangled by the furnace and then hung on the chimney. Canute looked at the level 5 priests nailed to the chimney with steel nails, and his heart became even more depressed. Once a high-level apostle puts down his face and fights a security war regardless of everything, the church will also be very troubled if there is no temple. What's more, it is still a furnace that can be resurrected 20 times. He wants to fight a security war. Canute doesn't know who can stop him, and he doesn't know how to stop him. He had already applied to the church to ask an 8th-level cardinal priest to take action to clean up the furnace, the wizard who always blasphemed the church. However, this application has not been passed because it is rumored that the furnace has 8th-level alchemical bullets, and the 8th-level cardinal priest does not want to take this risk. What should be done then? Canute didn't know the answer either, so he could only bear it first and then send people to communicate with the church, hoping that the church would send forces to fight against the security war as soon as possible. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 626. For 2 consecutive days, the Martini Islands were very quiet, and the furnace did not appear. People on the islands knew that the furnace was busy packing up the ships that transported believers from the southern continent. Because there was no temple, Canute could not inform the southern continent of what happened here in the first place. Those ships that had already set off did not know that the Martini Islands had become a restricted area, and each of them became the target of the furnace. When the ship carrying believers docked, the priests boarded the ship and found that there was no living priest, only a ship of overly frightened believers. Around the island's center lake, Canute could no longer maintain his sanity, and the two sides fell into a fierce quarrel. Bharat. I've said it so many times. When the War of Faith has achieved results and we build 3 temples on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula, the temples in the Martini Islands will definitely be demolished. Without temples in the Martini Islands, we can't deal with the rampant furnace at all. Bharat still shook his head. You know I'm the North Sky Wizard, but your evil god knows who I am. I'm just an ant in front of the evil god who may offend his majesty. The demolition of the temple means an offense to the evil god. If you really think so, then swear to the Lord of Nothingness, and with your faith as a guarantee, you will personally demolish a temple of the Lord of Nothingness in a few months. Newt's eyes were full of bloodshot, but he couldn't make this oath. It was indeed not his decision to demolish the temple. He also needed to report to His Holiness the Pope. Only with the consent of the evil god could His Holiness the Pope demolish the temple. The church did promise to demolish the temple later, but he could not make an oath at the cost of his faith. If something unexpected happened later, and the temple was not demolished, his divine power would be wiped out. Canute understood that Bella's concerns were correct. It was not an easy task to demolish the temple, but without the temple, he could not fight the furnace at all. The furnace cruised on the sea, hid on the seabed, and attacked the passing ships of the evil god cult at will. Without the help of the Wizard Association, he could not find the furnace on the seabed. It is said that the furnace has an 8th-level alchemical bullet, and Bella is unwilling to test the truth of this rumor. The 8th-level alchemical bullet contains a powerful alchemical power. Even if Bella has a particularly strong healing ability, he may not be able to survive the 8th-level alchemical bullet. Canute gave up the idea of building a temple here and could only wait for the church to come up with a new countermeasure. He couldn't help asking, what does the furnace want to do? He is a dog without a home. I guess King Elba's arrest warrant for him has dealt a heavy blow to him. The Knight of Elba is the only force with which he has a good relationship. He ruined this relationship for the wolf girl, so he was angry and retaliated everywhere. What Canute wanted to say was that the Wizard Association played an ignominious role in the death of the werewolf ancestor Mountain Messenger, but the furnace has only targeted the evil god cult until now, and has not dealt with the Wizard Association. I don't know what the furnace is thinking. If there is a new grudge, you can take a new one. Why are you entangled in the old hatred every day? 3 days later, the church finally stopped transporting believers to the Martini Islands. The ships that sent the believers should have returned to the port of the southern continent as soon as possible, but those ships did not return, which aroused the suspicion of the port of the southern continent. Before figuring out the situation, the priests of the southern continent stopped transporting believers. At 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, a Starlight South ship slowly emerged from the sea and headed for the Martini Islands. The wizard in charge of guarding the island immediately discovered the situation and hurriedly reported to the island's Heart Lake. The Starlight South ship of the furnace is as iconic as his Starlight Long Snake Hydra. It is the nightmare of ordinary wizards of the ancient Sea Wizard Association and the nightmare of low-level priests. When Belath hurried to the beach in the shortest time, he saw Canute waiting at the beach. The two looked at the slowly approaching Starlight South ship with serious expressions. Canute murmured, "Is the furnace preparing to attack the Martini Islands?" He was almost tortured crazy by the furnace, and his nerves were a little weak. Belath did not answer. A sea fish was near the Starlight South ship. The sea fish surfaced and saw the revolver in the hand of the furnace. Bellatrix reminded Canute, "The furnace is holding a revolver, be careful, maybe he will shoot that level 8 alchemical bullet tonight." Hydra strengthens the poison of the Scorpio wizard and is the level 6 mid-sky constellation that is most suitable for the Scorpio wizard. There is a large area of purple sea water around the Starlight South ship, which is the terrible poison laid by the Hydra wizard. Rudolph saw the coastal defense guns. The ancient Sea Wizard Association has kept up with the times. They have deployed many coastal defense guns on the shore. Alchemical shells hit the Starlight South ship one after another, creating a handful of water splashes around the Starlight South ship, and some shells even fell on the Starlight South ship. How can there be so many traitors among the alchemists, and the ancient Sea Wizard Association can get so many alchemical shells? After the explosion, a hissing snake sounded in the purple water waves, and a purple giant beast appeared on the sea. Canute and Bellatrix looked ugly. It felt terrible that 2 level 7 apostles were ridden by a level 6 wizard. Especially from the perspective of momentum, the Crucible was the more active and powerful party. A fierce battle broke out at the seaside in an instant. Canute and Bellat joined forces, and 2 level 7 apostles used long-range attacks to stop the giant beast Hydra. Newt's Divine Arts and Bellat's Starlight Dolphin tested the reaction of the Crucible from a distance, while also guarding against the Crucible's alchemical bullets. Rudolph had a sneer on his face. He came here at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night just to wait for dawn, and then let the Fire Reborn refresh at dawn. Moreover, Rudolph's real purpose was not to play a cycle game of resurrection with them here. At the other end of the island, a bat flew towards the shore along the sea. Everyone focused on the other end of the island to deal with the furnace, and no one noticed the level 6 castle bat. The castle bat was very fast, like a thin black line, and instantly drilled into the palm forest on the cliff by the sea. A few seconds later, the birds in the palm forest were frightened and flew out of the forest chirping. A Pisces wizard noticed the abnormality of the forest. He sighed in his heart that the battle of the furnace on the other side of the island could scare the birds here. The Pisces wizard cast his eyes to the other side of the island, where a 200-meter-high giant snake was fighting with 2 level 7 apostles. The scattered Starlight Snake Hydra turned into poisonous mist, making the place shrouded in purple. The black swallowing vortex, the blue Starlight Dolphin, the purple Starlight Snake, the battle on the other side of the island was so fierce. A large group of castle bats suddenly emerged from the palm forest. These castle bats continued to fission in the air, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and 4 became 8. In a short period of time, a large group of castle bats rushed out like a dark cloud. These castle bats scattered again and flew silently to the inside of the island. The Pisces wizard guarding this section of the sea was stunned. How could the Blood Clan come to attack the Martini Islands at this time? Before he sent out the alarm, an oblique line had cut off his head, and his head rolled farther and farther on the ground. It is said that after a person's head is cut off, he is still conscious for a few seconds. I wonder what he felt when he saw the 6th level Blood Clan Vanya appearing behind him from the ground at a strange angle. In the center of the island, the 6th level Pisces wizard of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association was responsible for the defense of the lake island. He was standing at the entrance of the glass plank road leading to the bottom of the water, facing the shore, anxiously waiting for the result. Not good. It's a level 6 castle bat. The furnace has an accomplice. The Pisces wizard discovered something unusual. A bat was hanging upside down on a tree by the lake. This was obviously abnormal. There were no bats on the Martini Islands. Moreover, the lake was protected by a mist defense spell. There was a lot of mist floating around the lake. It was impossible for bats to enter here. A sudden explosion broke the tense silence here. The level 6 Pisces wizard saw the furnace appear in front of him with bloodshot eyes. The Pisces wizard's eyes were about to crack. The furnace? Not a vampire. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 627. The 6th level Pisces wizard turned his head and looked at the seaside, and found that the purple giant beast on the seaside had disappeared, which meant that the furnace really appeared here. But why did the furnace suddenly appear here? He remembered the bat, and one of the core abilities of the 6th level blood race, the bat flash. The 6th level blood race can flash anywhere with the help of the bat, and this flash can avoid the stiffness after the sonic boom flash. At this moment, the 6th level Pisces wizard, like other apostles, felt the horror of the wizard. Why can the wizard master the abilities of other apostles, and be unprepared and caught off guard? Rudolph walked forward and said, I always felt that I had forgotten something these days, and today I finally remembered it. When I first came to your island, I shot and killed a level 6 Oblivion priest. I was in a hurry and forgot to take his relics. Now I finally remembered it. I ask you, did your wizard take the relic? It's my relic, give it back to me. Looking at the approaching furnace, the face of the level 6 Pisces wizard was covered with cold sweat. He was no match for the furnace. Not to mention him, even his teacher, the North Sky wizard Belad, did not dare to say that he would win when he saw the furnace. No. How could the Oblivion Church let us deal with the bodies of their priests? They didn't give us the relic. Rudolph said puzzledly, is the Oblivion Church so inflexible? Anyway, the priest is dead, so they didn't take the relic to make you happy? You are allies now. The Pisces wizard didn't know how to explain. Do allies have to give relics to wizards? Allies also have bottom lines. The situation in Martini Islands is so tense recently, who would still have the heart to think about happy things? Your alliance relationship is not good. Taking the opportunity to speak, Rudolph's drooping fingers moved slightly. The Pisces wizard was still on guard against the furnace, and he had no idea when the furnace would launch an attack. A beam of fire ray shot through his forehead, and his starlight whale just appeared and just wrapped his head, but it was too late, and his head had been shot through by the finger fire. Just like when he killed the whale wizard Wells, this level 6 wizard also had the protection of the starlight dolphin. The pierced head was actually recovering. The unreasonable healing ability of the starlight dolphin prevented the level 6 wizard from dying instantly. Rudolph was also prepared for this. At some point, a bat appeared at the feet of the wizard. Vanya suddenly appeared, and the side edge of the bat's wings was like a sharp blade. The bat wings spun several times and instantly cut the level 6 wizard into more than a dozen pieces. Rudolph wanted the Lion King spark not to erupt violently like before, but to turn it into a flame, using the exaggerated temperature of the spark to burn slowly. After persisting for a few seconds, Rudolph had to give up. He couldn't do such delicate work now. Rudolph couldn't control the forbidden spark like the Ares wizard Nadav of the Pillar of Creation. There must be some secret that only Ares wizards know. However, this did not affect Rudolph's results. The level 6 Zhongtian whale wizard was dead, and Rudolph got another level 6 whale starstone. I don't believe that Canute really didn't give away the level 6 Oblivion Priest relic. Even if he gave it to you secretly. The appearance of the Starlight Dolphin and the death of the level 6 wizard made Belat on the seashore instantly realize the change in the situation. The furnace didn't know what means it used to go deep into the heart of the island lake from the seashore. Furnace! How dare you! Bharat's roar could not make him appear in the heart of the island instantly. He did not have this ability. He could only rush to the heart of the island with Canute. Rudolph looked at the entrance of the glass corridor leading to the bottom of the lake and did not choose to go deep rashly. He did not know what dangers would be in the lair of this level 7 wizard, but he had a substitute, and the substitute Vanya was not afraid of danger. Since Rudolph's fire phase forbidden technique was recognized by the Pillar of Creation, Rudolph felt that his water phase forbidden technique would be exposed sooner or later. There are many talented people in this other world. Since it will be exposed anyway, it is better to make good use of it. The castle bat flew into the glass corridor, and Rudolph waited outside for the detection results. To Rudolph's regret, Bharat was a little unhappy to see the furnace standing at his doorstep and did not welcome him at all. Facing the full-strength attack of the two level 7 apostles, Rudolph did not resist too much and gave away his third life tonight. Rudolph's star power was at the bottom, and he just used death to restore his star power. On a ship of the Seaside Wizard Association, the wizard captain wiped the sweat from his face and finally extinguished the ship's steam turbine. For such a large ship, the combustion chamber is also large, and it takes a long time to completely extinguish the burning coal inside. Green smoke is coming out of the burning boiler, and the red charcoal inside should be extinguished. After the last furnace appeared, the Martini Islands made a plan. Once the furnace appears again, all flames must be extinguished in the shortest time. The combustion chamber of the ship is the top priority. Just when the captain thought he had completed the task and was about to turn around and leave, he stood there in a daze. Humans are strange animals. When there are more people, there will always be inexplicable idiots. For example, now, a sailor just put down the basin in his hand, turned the basin upside down on the ground and sat on it. He was exhausted and habitually lit a cigarette. The flickering of the cigarette butt illuminated the sailor's tired face. Seeing the captain looking at him and everyone else looking at him, the sailor didn't realize what was wrong. Hey! Why is the cigarette so bright today? The flame of the cigarette suddenly exploded, almost blinding the sailor's eyes. Tears flowed from his eyes, and he hurriedly covered his eyes with his arms, and the cigarette in his hand fell to the ground. The golden flame just now was so bright that the sailor felt that his eyes hurt badly. 3 minutes later, the sailor finally put down his hands covering his eyes, and he looked up in tears and looked around. His vision was blurred. Where were the people? Where were the others? A man suddenly appeared beside him, patted his shoulder, and a voice sounded beside the sailor. Smoking is harmful to health. Look, did your habit kill your captain? The sailor wiped away the tears from his eyes due to pain, and saw the situation in the engine room clearly. The crew had already been lying on the ground, and the murderer was walking on the iron steps, walking out of the engine room. He hurriedly stamped out the cigarette butt that fell on the ground, and was terrified. No one would notice the cigarette that had just been lit, and he felt unsafe, so the sailor picked up the cigarette butt while crying and swallowed it. Now, even the cigarette butt was gone, so no one would notice it, right? No one would know that he had killed the captain, right? When the murderer left, the iron door slammed shut, and the sailor trembled. He decided not to go to the toilet for 3 days, and he must not let anyone find the cigarette butt. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 628. After Rudolph came to the deck, he immediately summoned the starlight snake Hydra on the beach. The huge beast attracted the attention of the whole island. These people should not disturb Vanya. Vanya has just sneaked into Bharat's underground palace. He is still looking for level 6 relics. Every level 6 relic and level 7 relic can improve Rudolph. Standing on the highest snake head, Rudolph watched the enemies rush over and calmly operated other snake heads to sink the ships in the port. No matter it is the ship of the Wizarding Society or the ship of the evil god cult, they will not be spared. Every time a snake head is smashed down, a ship will be sunk. In order to prevent the furnace from resurrecting, the steam turbines of these ships are shut down. There is no energy supply and no generator. As a result, the alchemy reinforcement circle is also shut down, and the snakehead is sunk. There is no pressure on these boats. Bellet saw the giant beast raging in the port, and while rushing towards the port, his heart was bleeding. Why is the furnace resurrected again? Didn't you arrange everything and eliminate all sources of fire? That was his port, that was his ship. I still remember how excited and stressed he was when he inherited these from his teacher. Now the port that has been inherited by the ancient sea wizards for hundreds of years is being crazily destroyed by the furnace. Other apostles dare not rashly enter areas controlled by other forces, as they can easily be killed by the enemy's hidden cards. The furnace is different. The last thing the furnace is afraid of is being killed. In the battle just now, Vilat had already used several trump cards, which were indeed able to kill the furnace, but to no avail. This was the 4th resurrection of the furnace, and there were many more resurrections of the furnace, many, many more. He didn't want to test the limits of furnace resurrection tonight. He wanted the evil god cult to complete this arduous task. Antarctica is frozen. Belat no longer believed in the plan he had made before, and he wanted to use his own means to eliminate all sources of fire on the island. White cold air erupted from his body, and the cold air dispersed around him. The leaves were covered with frost, and the fallen frozen leaves fell to the ground and cracked like fragile glass. There was a crackling sound on the water surface, which was that the water was freezing rapidly. Everyone's breath was filled with white air, and the temperature around the Martini Islands dropped sharply. Bellet used all his abilities as an Antarctic wizard. At the level 5 wizard stage, he also accommodated the characteristics of the Antarctic constellation in the south sky. Canute on the side did not dare to stop him. Even if he knew that some believers in poor health would die under the freezing Antarctic air, he did not dare to tell Bharat to stop because the pressure on them from the furnace was too great. Big. Rudolph looked at the cold mist drifting in and felt that these people were really making a fuss out of a molehill. Why would they do so? They would hurt others and themselves. When Bharat and Canute arrived at the port, they saw 9 sunken ships in the port. The water here is shallow, and part of the sunken ship is still above the water. Accumulating wealth is slow, but destroying wealth is very fast. It only takes a few minutes to sink a ship that took more than a year to build in the dock. Anyone who sees it will feel distressed. Rudolph had previously wanted to keep these ships and use the ship's combustion boilers to resurrect him. Unfortunately, the Wizarding Society and the Cult of Evil were willing to stall the steam turbines to prevent his resurrection. In this case, there is no need for these ships to continue to exist. The Martini Islands are located in the sea. As long as there is no fire on the entire island, the resurrection of the furnace can be prevented. This was implemented very thoroughly. Not only was there no flame, but in order to prevent sparks from circuit breakage, the generator was shut down and all switches in the power distribution system were opened. Seeing that the long starlight snake was no longer solidified before, Bharat knew that this was because the furnace had become weak after being resurrected many times. This does not make Bharat happy, because the church's intelligence shows that after weakening to a certain level, the furnace will be resurrected at full status, and then continue the cycle. Rudolph glanced at the island center lake in the distance, lowered his head and continued to entangle with the two level 7 apostles. The lack of a source of fire is a bit troublesome. Rudolph will have to find a way to create a source of fire at any time to avoid having no basis for resurrection. On the island in the middle of the lake, the castle bat spit out blood tangents and dealt with the guards along the way. This underwater underground palace is not big. Behind a long passage is a sealed iron door. Warnya just started to study the iron door, when suddenly a light lit up on the iron door. A whirlpool black hole appeared, sucking Vanya into the whirlpool. At the last moment, Vanya shot a bloody line from his hand, cutting off his legs and waist. There is actually a trap here. This door is a witchcraft made from the relics of the level 6 Oblivion Priest. Intruders who come in rashly will be sucked into the vortex by the magic weapon. Fortunately, Vanya was different. Starlight emerged from his broken torso, repairing his body. As long as Rudolph does not die, Vanya is immortal and can always rely on Starlight to complete it. Vanya took out a revolver. The revolver contained Rudolph's last level 7 alchemical bullet. He aimed it at the bolt of the iron door witchcraft and pulled the trigger. There is a level 6 wizard at the door, and there is a level 6 wizard here. I don't know what is locked in Belat's underground palace. After the door made of the witchcraft was destroyed, a group of castle bats flew in. It looks like an ancient rotunda villa, with a circular hall in the middle and an arched dome. The dome is a glass roof through which you can see the lake. The glass was wiped clean without any stains. After testing by the castle bat, there is no danger here anymore. It is more like a comfortable living place that Belat created for himself. Vanya kicked open the door of the left area and found a small hall with 3 doors around it. After kicking open a door, Vanya was surprised to find a beautiful woman living inside. Rudolph shared Vanya's vision. After looking into the eyes of the beautiful woman, he had already imagined a tragic story of a beautiful daughter of a poor family being abducted by an evil wizard. However, the moment the woman took out the magic weapon, Rudolph knew that he had thought too much. "I will never betray Mr. Belat. Please leave." Rudolph didn't want to delve into the love and hatred behind this, and Vanya quickly knocked her out. Opening the other small doors, there was a beautiful woman living in each of them, but each of them was beautiful in its own way. Unexpectedly, Belat, a 60-year-old old man, was quite strong. The roofs of these houses where women were hidden were also made of glass, with lake water on top. I don't know what kind of hobby this is, and I'm not afraid of the brave Pisces wizard lying on the roof glass to peek, so as not to scare the old man Belat into some disease. After returning to the round hall, Vanya walked to the house in front and kicked open the door of this house. Vanya found that the roof was no longer made of glass, but a solid board. The power was also cut off here. Vanya's night vision was very good and he could see everything here clearly. Especially the relic that was shining with starlight, which attracted Vanya's attention at the first time. In the distant port, Rudolph, who was confronting, raised his eyebrows. As he guessed, the relic of the dead Oblivion Priest must have been in Belat's hands. This was reasonable. Vanya saw a level 6 Oblivion Priest relic on the table. In addition to the relic, there were several pieces of paper scattered on the table. Picking up a piece of paper and looking at it, Vanya saw a witch language combination deduction diagram written on it. It turned out that other wizards made witchcraft in this way. They would make drafts before making them. Unlike Rudolph, there were enough witch languages and it was easy to find the most suitable one. The level 6 Oblivion ring disappeared in Vanya's palm and entered the star map. Rudolph had no time to study this relic and could only wait until the battle was over to take a closer look. Vanya did not find other relics in the studio. As the leader of the Wizards Association, Bellatrix must have a lot of good things. He must have brought those treasures with him. Only this relic was left here in a hurry because he was making a magic weapon. The studio is surrounded by bookshelves with some books about wizards. If Rudolph destroys the ancient Sea Wizards Association, he must come here to read these books carefully. Behind the last door connecting the round hall is a sanatorium with many sanatorium facilities. Bellatrix pays great attention to maintenance. It seems that if you want to get more good things, you have to find them on Bellatrix. There are not many valuable things in this underwater palace. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 629. Vanya entered Bellatrix's lair and only got a level 6 Oblivion Priest relic, which made Rudolph a little disappointed. This is to blame the High Priests. Their relics can be made into space magic tools, which can hold a lot of things. Bellatrix must have brought the good things with him. It seems that only by killing Bellatrix can we get more gains. After losing a quarter of the star power limit, Rudolph was no match for the two people in front of him. A black hole vortex came over and Rudolph was killed again. Canute held a staff with a ring on the top of the staff. It was the artifact of the Oblivion Church, the Void Staff. Rudolph had no way to deal with that staff. The port fell silent after the death of the furnace. Bellatrix turned around and shouted to the wizards, "Go search the entire island. Make sure there is no fire source." The wizards and priests understood the importance of eliminating the fire source, but they were afraid that the servants and believers on the island would make mistakes. The Antarctic cold enveloped the entire island, and they were afraid that someone would not be able to bear it and light a fire to keep warm. In the palm forest on the edge of the island, 3 low-level wizards were checking in the forest. These low-level wizards were not very useful in the battle with the furnace and would only become a burden, but they were responsible for clearing the source of fire. Just 5 steps away from them, a man stood there. The 3 wizards seemed to be blind and did not see the man at all. After the 3 wizards walked away, the man raised his hand, holding a revolver. With a snap, the revolver fired a blank bullet. Rudolph wanted the flames that would be ejected from the barrel of the blank bullet. Before coming, he thought of the possible countermeasures of the Wizard Association. It was obvious that eliminating the source of fire was the most important countermeasure for the Wizard Association. In this regard, Rudolph's method was to remove the warhead of a level 6 alchemical bullet and activate this level 6 alchemical bullet. In this way, even if the Wizard Association had Antarctic wizards who could block the heat, the level of the level 6 alchemical bullet was high enough to eject flames in the Antarctic cold fog. Fire and flames spewed out of the muzzle, and these flames expanded and turned into a huge landscape phoenix fire. A human figure slowly changed from gold to black, and finally turned into the appearance of Rudolph. The higher the Tao, the higher the devil. Rudolph is the devil, and there are many ways. Larry retreated and hid in the darkness again, while Rudolph walked out of the palm forest. The footsteps behind him were not hidden at all. The 3 Pisces wizards turned their heads and saw a black shadow. They were about to sound the alarm, but found that they could not move. They didn't know when a venomous snake climbed on their ankles, and the venomous snake easily deprived them of their ability to react. 3 low-level relics were obtained, but unfortunately, these relics were all relics that the star map had already collected. The size is a relic. Rudolph plans to make these low-level relics into magic tools in the future, and then distribute them to the people of the Volcano Trading Company as rewards. After leaving the palm forest, Rudolph found the direction and walked towards the tallest building of the ancient Sea Wizard Association. Sink all the ships of the Wizard Association, eliminate the middle-level wizards of the Wizard Association, and blow up the tallest buildings. Rudolph wants to make the Wizard Association feel pain, pain that goes deep into the bone marrow. The 7th level wizard Belath and the 6th level wizard of the Wizard Association are qualified to live in several island lakes. They can study water magic at any time, which is a symbol of status. Most other wizards are active in several buildings. At this time, the island was filled with cold fog. Rudolph sensed the star power in the cold fog. These cold fogs also have reconnaissance functions and can detect what happened on the island. Rudolph didn't care about his exposure. As long as he was given a few minutes, he could complete the destruction. The huge body of the starlight water snake Hydra appeared in the building complex, accompanied by the hissing snake sound, and the snake head smashed hard on the building. The high priest Canute was not familiar with this place, but Belath had already discovered the furnace through the cold fog. While leading people to the building complex in the center of the island, Belath shouted in confusion, "Why is there still a fire source? Where is the fire source?" No one could answer him. On the dark island, everyone wanted to stop breathing, just to create a little heat. Surrounded by cold fog, everyone was shivering with cold. Belath didn't know what went wrong. After seeing several important buildings of the Wizard Association smashed into ruins, he could no longer maintain his sanity. He stopped rushing forward, and turned his head with red eyes and said to Canute, "Next time. Next time, you must not let the furnace revive." Canute saw Belath, who had fallen into madness, and felt that both of them were pitiful. 2 level 7 apostles were tossed to this extent by a level 6 wizard. "I don't want him to revive either, but we don't even understand the reason for his resurrection now. I don't know where the fire source of his resurrection is." What answered Canute was the starlight radiating from Belath's body. That was him frantically mobilizing star power. Rudolph, who was destroying the iconic Pisces sculpture of the Wizard Association, turned his head and looked in the direction of Bellatrix. The star power there was too strong, so strong that the starlight could be seen from half the island. Suddenly, Rudolph heard the sound of waves. He looked at the seaside again and found that a wall of water rose up on the seaside, and a circle of circular waves rose up, which completely wrapped up the island. Level 7 wizard Bellatrix was going to use a powerful water magic to turn the island into an underwater reef. As long as a tsunami was created to submerge the island, it would be guaranteed that there would be absolutely no fire source nearby, and the resurrection of the furnace could be prevented. Even if there was a fire source, it would be very conspicuous if someone lit a fire on the sea surface at that time, and it would be easy to be discovered. Canute saw the circular water wall and shouted, "Are you crazy? In order to kill the furnace, you don't even want this island." Bharat's face showed fatigue, and his wrinkles deepened a little. He said, "If we lose the island, my wizards can still survive. If we don't do this, the wizard will be completely destroyed by the furnace sooner or later. But there are still thousands of believers on this island." Bharat glanced at Canute. "What's the difference between dying here and dying in the North Continent for them? If you really value the lives of believers, why send them to the North Continent?" Canute couldn't answer this question. The roar of the waves appeared on the seashore. No matter what he thought, it was too late. The huge waves pushed everything to the center. The trees and reefs rolled in the waves. The waves were more than 10 meters high and rushed towards the crowd with a roar. The wizards were in a frenzy. As long as they entered the sea, they would have a greater chance of survival. These huge waves were a disaster for others, but for the Pisces wizards, it was a ride to escape. The priests were all terrified. They did not like the sea, let alone the seabed. The Pisces wizards still had a chance to escape, but the priests were lambs to be slaughtered in the waves. As for the believers brought by Canute, they could only look at the waves in despair, without any ability to resist. Larry, the word spirit, sensed the danger earlier than Rudolph. He did not know when he had appeared behind Rudolph, and then quickly disappeared in Rudolph's palm. Vanya could fly, so he was not afraid. The castle bats flew high into the sky one by one, and could no longer hide their bodies. Rudolph looked at Bellatrix and thought that Bellatrix was crazy for choosing such a lose-lose style of play. So, if I mix the toxins of Hydra in the sea water, how will you, Bellatrix, deal with it? Rudolph, who had just raised his hand, finally put it down. He didn't do that, because if he did, the more than 1,000 believers would surely die. The believers were just ordinary people who were bewitched. They were not even as good as the servants of God. Forget it. There was a sonic boom in the air, and Vanya had already fled to the distance at the fastest speed. A few minutes later, 5 kilometers away from the limit of the range of rebirth in the fire, Vanya lit a match, and Rudolph walked out of the match. Rudolph turned and left. Belath was already crazy. If the fight continued, who knew what evil things Belath would do? The security war ended here. Rudolph was now considered a semi-official person. Next time, he would bring the ships of the Constitutional Army here to change the taste of the ancient Sea Wizard Association, hoping that they could withstand the saturation artillery coverage of the alchemist's weapons. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 630. After seeing the flying castle bats, Canute realized that the believers who were frozen to death and drowned died in vain. Long-lived vampires are very afraid of death, so many of their abilities are related to escape. The furnace actually found a level 6 vampire as a helper, so all of Bella's countermeasures failed. Bella used a witchcraft that was detrimental to both sides to flood the entire Martini Islands, which turned out to be a complete blunder. Bella's face was livid, and he didn't speak, and no one dared to speak to him. The furnace left, not because Bella was driven away by Bella, but because the furnace left on its own. Canute turned around and flew towards the believers' gathering area. Fortunately, the furnace did not mix the poison of Hydra in the sea water, otherwise none of the thousands of believers would survive. The situation is slightly better now. Only 200 or 300 believers were drowned, and the remaining believers still have a chance to be rescued. Soon, Canute heard about the losses of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. The Ancient Sea Wizard Association, which originally had more than 100 wizards, now has only more than 30 left under the crazy flash killing of the furnace. The buildings of the Wizard Association were all destroyed, and even Belat's underwater round hall villa was visited by the furnace. Belat told Canute that the level 6 Oblivion Priest relic that Canute gave to Belat privately had been stolen by the furnace. Belat was studying the relic these days and wanted to make it into a magical weapon that could enhance the combat effectiveness of the Wizard Association, so he didn't bring it with him. Now it's good, it's a bargain for the furnace. Among the level 6 apostles of both sides, the last level 6 whale wizard of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association also died at the hands of the furnace. Belat and Canute became commanders without a level 6 apostle. Level 6 apostles are the absolute backbone of any force, and the death of one will cause major damage. The evil god cult is better, sitting on the entire population of the southern continent, and their level 6 priests can be replenished. The Ancient Sea Wizard Association is different. There are only 2 level 6 wizards, all of whom died at the hands of the furnace. It is very difficult for the Ancient Sea Wizard Association to train another level 6 wizard. The major forces on both sides of the Ancient Sea will not easily reveal their flaws and let the Wizard Association obtain the level 6 relic. At this time, the culprit Rudolph was sitting in the south ship, waiting for the Constitutional Army to come. The Constitutional Army has long disliked the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. Taking this opportunity, the Ancient Sea Wizard Association will become history. Rudolph frowned and thought about tactics. He must kill Belath here. If Belath becomes a commander without troops, he will become as reckless as Rudolph and launch a security war at will. Belath's healing and recovery ability makes it difficult for him to be killed. If Belath deals with Rudolph's trading company, Rudolph will also have a headache. The ceiling of the captain's room of the Starlight South ship turned into dots of starlight, fluffy like a large group of fireflies, allowing Rudolph to see the starry sky while lying on the chair. Rudolph has not chosen the reward for the newly acquired level 6 Oblivion Priest relic. The star map is like an abstract oil painting style starry sky. At this time, another star is lit in the star map. Taurus' new star lights up, and the progress of Taurus has reached 4/10. 3 suspended stars fall from Taurus' new star. This is Rudolph's hard work fee. 3 options. Level 6 Abyss Trap, Level 6 Oblivion Ring, Level 6 Mid-Sky Canis Minor Secret Formula. Level 6 Mid-Sky Canis Minor Secret Formula was excluded first. There are many dog constellations in the middle and northern constellations, such as Canis Venatici, Canis Minor, Canis Major, etc. These constellations are constellations with werewolves as the main relics. Rudolph does not want such constellations for the time being. He will encounter many werewolves in the future, and dog constellations are not very valuable. Level 6 Abyss Trap, listening to the name, should be some kind of trap-type witchcraft, which Rudolph does not need. The trap takes too long to take effect, and Rudolph prefers simple and crude means. Therefore, among these 3 options, Rudolph chose the level 6 Ring of Oblivion. A level 6 magic weapon can help Rudolph improve his strength. When he no longer needs it, he can also give it to people around him to make them safer. He took out the Starstone, which was crushed into powder in Rudolph's hand, floated forward, and automatically shifted to become a large star triangle. After placing the relic in the center of the star triangle, Rudolph began to make this magic weapon. The core of this magic weapon is the ability of the Annihilation Priest, the void vortex that can be connected with the endless abyss. If it is made into a magic weapon, the ability will become more powerful because of the addition of witch language. Surrounded by the starstone powder, the relic slowly rose and fell. Rudolph looked up and looked for a suitable constellation in the starry sky. The first constellation is Leo. The Leo witch language expansion can make the vortex created by this magic weapon larger than that of the Annihilation Priest. The 6th level Annihilation Priest can create a vortex with a maximum diameter of 10 meters. After adding the Leo witch language expansion, the size of the vortex can reach 20 meters. The second constellation is Libra. Libra witch language hurricane can create a tornado in front of the witch weapon, so that the black hole vortex is no longer a passive swallowing vortex, and the hurricane will draw the enemy into the black hole. The third constellation is Aquarius. Aquarius witch language suction will produce a particle with a large suction force at the junction of the hurricane and the black hole, increase the restraint ability of the hurricane, and let the enemies caught by the hurricane enter the black hole vortex faster. The star power of the 3 constellations entered Rudolph's body in turn, and then entered the astrological triangle from Rudolph's body. The starstone powder wrapped in star power quickly gathered in the relic, and the constellation star power transformed the relic. Finally, a brass ring fell on the spot. This is Rudolph's new witch weapon, the 6th level Annihilation Ring. A very good ability. The main ability is defense, and it can also use hurricanes to quickly suck medium-range enemies into the black hole vortex. Rudolph has been hunting around the Martini Islands. The ships of the evil god cult can enter the Martini Islands, but no living priest is allowed on the ship. He also captured a ship that transported food and drinks. The islands of the Martini Islands are not large and the products are not abundant, so sea vessels are needed to deliver food and drinks to the islands. After being intercepted by Rudolph, I wonder if the people on the Martini Islands will starve. On second thought, so many people died, there should not be such a great demand. On second thought, Belat was so crazy that he flooded his island with waves. The food stored on the island before would not be flooded, so there is still a shortage of food. Turning around, the ancient sea wizards must be miserable. Who made them provoke the furnace? 2 days later, Rudolph saw 10 warships of the Constitutional Army. It's here, it's finally here, it's time to end the feud with the ancient Sea Wizard Society. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 631. After seeing the furnace land on the flagship of the Constitutional Army, Vice Admiral Goulet came to greet it. All the ships heading to the Martini Islands stopped, and even the smuggling ships dared not go there, because there were pirates in that sea area these days. The Constitutional Army knew that it was not pirates at all, but the furnace was taking revenge on the old Sea Wizard Association. The furnace in front of him was the reason why there were dangers around the Martini Islands. Mr. Furnace, I am Vice Admiral Goulet. May I ask what is the current situation of the Martini Islands? Did your previous harassment produce any results? Not much results. There are 2 level 7 apostles on that island, the level 7 wizard Belat and the level 7 high priest Canute. My actions were limited. It took a few days, and I only had time to clear out the level 6 and level 5 apostles on the island. Hearing this, Goulet didn't know how to answer. Is this also considered not much results? Vice Admiral Goulet, what level 7 alchemical weapons are on your flagship? Hearing the question from Ronglu, Vice Admiral Goulet quickly guided Ronglu to the level 7 alchemical weapons. The shells in this bow gun are level 7 alchemical shells, which are extremely powerful and belong to heavy alchemical shells. Once they hit, the level 7 apostles will be seriously injured if they don't die. The barrel of this gun is thick, and the alchemical shells are in the ammunition feeder under the turret, which looks really powerful. Rudolph asked, so, what is the hit rate of this gun? The hit rate needs to rely on the help of the apostles on the ship. It is best to have some apostle methods to reduce the enemy's reaction ability. Rudolph thought about it. Cooper can use ghost magic to reduce the reaction ability of the level 7 apostles, and his silver snake Abigail can also do it, but Rudolph does not want to expose Abigail. The threat of the silver snake is too great. Once the Constitutional Army finds out that Rudolph has a level 6 silver snake, they will give him a brand new red warrant with the scent of ink. Lieutenant General Goulet then directed Rudolph to the 2 multiple rocket launchers. Mr. Furnace, these are 2 rocket launchers with level 7 alchemical rockets. They have tracking capabilities and are very flexible. They are our favorite weapons. Rudolph nodded. This weapon is quite good and can play a greater role in the battle with the level 7 apostles. Just as Rudolph was studying this multiple rocket launcher, a footstep sounded. Rudolph followed the footsteps and found that it was Duke, the director of the Judgment Hall. Mr. Furnace, the Court of Inquisition has applied for some weapons. I hope you can use them in the battle to wipe out the ancient sea wizards. Eliminate the ancient sea wizards, Rudolph smiled and said, I never said that we could completely wipe out the ancient sea wizards this time. Bellatrix's ability allows him to heal himself no matter how many injuries he suffers. It is very difficult to wipe out the ancient sea wizards, otherwise you would have done it long ago. Duke said mysteriously, Mr. Furnace, if you see the alchemical weapons we have prepared, you will definitely think that wiping out the wizards is just like this. Hearing what Duke said, Rudolph became interested, then go and see what good things you have prepared. Before Duke took the furnace away, he also glanced at Lieutenant General Goulet, meaning that they, the witch hunters, must get the credit for this time. He may not be very strong in witch hunting, but when it comes to how to cooperate with wizards, Duke feels that he has a lot of experience. This is called a long illness makes a good doctor. Following Duke down to the cabin, Rudolph entered a windowless cabin with dim lights. 4 witch hunters stood solemnly at the 4 corners of the room, staring at the box in the middle. Rudolph found that the 4 witch hunters were all level 5 witch hunters. It was not easy to find 4 level 5 witch hunters in a court of justice. He didn't know what was in the box. Duke came to the box and put his hand on it. His alchemical power moved on the box. The copper wire on the box kept changing its position under the operation of the alchemical power. This should be some kind of alchemist's password lock device. It took 3 minutes. I don't know how Duke remembered those complicated changes in the copper wires. The box was finally opened. Duke signaled Rudolph to stand 3 steps away to look at the alchemical weapons in the box. This is a green bullet. Rudolph has had a level 7 alchemical bullet, so he can recognize that this is not a level 7 alchemical bullet. Then Rudolph turned to look at Duke, level 8 alchemical bullet. Duke nodded with pride. Yes, Mr. Furnace, you guessed it right, this is a level 8 alchemical bullet. Speaker House of the House of Lords specially approved it to be stored in the secret arsenal of the Regional Council to increase the combat effectiveness of the Regional Council. After learning that you are willing to deal with the wizards and stowaway believers in the Martini Islands, the Regional Council held a meeting overnight and decided to send this bullet to this fleet. Each level 8 alchemical bullet is very difficult to manufacture, the power is also extremely large, and it must be used for a specific purpose. What does special for a specific purpose mean? It means that each level 8 alchemical bullet must be used on a specific enemy. Level 8 alchemical bullets have the ability to kill level 8 apostles, and are also a huge threat to level 7 alchemists such as the regional president. Therefore, in the regulations of the parliament, each level 8 alchemical bullet must be approved for use, supervised for use, and the enemy must be clear. Once it is fired, the shell must be recovered. This is the special purpose of level 8 alchemical bullets. The decision of the regional parliament is that this bullet can only be used on the level 7 North Sky Wizard Belat. Rudolph thought Duke's explanation was very reasonable. The threat of level 8 alchemy bullets is too great. Even level 8 apostles will be burned to death by the hot alchemical power inside. It is more than enough to deal with level 7 apostles. However, Rudolph feels that the biggest problem with this bullet is that it is difficult to hit the enemy. This is why the Moon Eye Obsidian has become the most popular gun among alchemists. Rudolph asked, "This level 8 alchemy bullet is green. Is there anything special about it?" Duke explained. Level 8 alchemy bullets require fine gold, which is a metal that can carry the power of level 8 alchemy after being refined. Refining fine gold will consume a lot of metal, and a level 8 alchemy bullet will consume a quarter of our annual copper production in the western region. The output of copper is too small, and the refined copper is relatively soft. Speaker House of the House of Lords chose refined steel. The output of steel is much greater than that of copper, and its price is much lower than that of copper, almost 1/5 of the price of copper. This is a way to save raw materials. Made from a small amount of alchemical copper and fine steel, the finished level 8 alchemical bullets are painted with special paint to avoid jamming. Rudolph looked at the beautiful bullet and felt a little emotional. I understand, steel bullets are stronger than copper bullets, I understand this, no need to explain.